Do you know about alchemical sexual alchemy?
Sexual alchemy.
Yeah.
I know alchemy.
Talking about tantra.
I made a lot of money on alchemy in the early 70s.
Do you know that the story of Jesus, how it's been altered in certain ways? I mean, yes, there was a guy. Yes, there was teachings, all that stuff. But
now,
the Bible,
there wasn't only just a guy.
No. Well, okay.
Let's not reduce it.
Well, he's not even that, actually.
What Jim Carrey talks about here is the most profound knowledge you can know about your physiology and its relationship to spirituality. Welcome to More Than a Label. This video is about the sacred secretion and sexual alchemy. Stay tuned to unlock a new level of understanding of your body and spirituality. Everything in existence, including our bodies and thoughts, is made of energy. Our beliefs shape this energy and how it's realized, which means it manifests in our reality. So, it's important to raise our awareness to make the most of the energy around us. We can do this by sharpening our minds and living in a way that's good and true to our innermost self. One approach gaining popularity in public discourse these days is preserving the sacred secretion by practicing sexual alchemy. This sacred secretion is an oily, clear fluid that moves up and down our central nervous system. It's an internal medicine that flows around our brain's pineal gland, linking it to the lower energy centers of the body, down to the sexual organs. The circulation of this fluid is the essence of spiritual practices. It unites our physical bodies with the spiritual world. You just have to remember that the true meaning of the word yoga is actually union. This is why we find many physical exercises in yogic practices. They help us raise the primal energy of the material body by means of the spine and the sacred secretion to the higher energy centers to achieve a state of union with the divine within. This is also the secret of mysticism. As a matter of fact, the word mysticism comes from the Greek word mystikos, which means secret or hidden. This term originally referred to religious practices involved in the pursuit of hidden or esoteric knowledge about the divine, spiritual truths, or the nature of reality. By understanding biology and alchemy, we can boost the power of this sacred secretion. When it flows well, it enhances our connection to the universal energy field. Creating the right conditions for it to thrive is important, like providing the right environment for it to stay preserved. Now, let's talk about the sacred secretion or the oil of Christ. The sacred secretion, also known as chrism or the oil of Christ, is a profound aspect of internal alchemy within the body. It's a natural process triggered by celestial alignments, unlocking a cascade of transformative biochemical reactions. This sacred elixir bestows individuals with heightened perception, enabling them to traverse realms of energy beyond ordinary human senses. As articulated in the Gospel of Philip, it surpasses mere baptism, signifying a divine anointing of unparalleled significance. Interestingly, the very term Christian finds its etymological roots in chrism and the name of Christ himself. In scientific terms, this substance is called the cerebral spinal fluid. Inside the brain is a thin, irregular, sheet-like neuronal structure of gray matter that is attached to the underside of the neocortex in the center of the brain, which is called the claustrum. Scientists describe the claustrum's function as enigmatic because it's very complex. It has a remarkable anatomy with the highest number of connections per millimeter cubed than any other part of the brain. Research shows that the claustrum receives input from almost all regions of the cortex and projects back to almost all regions of this cortex, which means it sits at the intersection of all the conscious and unconscious processes we experience. The claustrum's role within the sacred secretion is also believed by many to be the true meaning of Santa Claus, who brings gifts from the North Pole down the chimney before returning. This is what Jim Carrey talks about. It is within the claustrum that the secretion process begins. The composition of the cerebral spinal fluid is dependent on the activity of surrounding brain tissue. Scientists state that the three main functions of CSF are to protect the brain and spinal cord from trauma, supply nutrients to the nervous system, and remove waste products from the cerebral metabolism, brain blood flow. The claustrum passes the secretion onto the pineal, which adds its melatonin release to the energetic liquid. This secretion then travels down the spine's 33 vertebrae, and it's intersecting to note that Jesus was 33 when he was crucified. It passes through the Pingala nerve, which is connected to the pineal gland, and the Ida nerve, which is connected to the pituitary gland. These nerves are also known as the Kundalini and extend down the spine. The same concept is captured in the caduceus of Hermes, which is a symbol depicting two serpents entwined around a central staff. This imagery mirrors the journey of the sacred secretion as it ascends back through the 33 vertebrae of the spine. The two serpents or nerves meet at the triangular sacrum at the end of the 33 vertebrae. The sacrum is a 5-bone vertebrae fused with nerve fibers known as the sacral plexus. Notice how sacral and sacred sound similar? The point of connection is often referred to as the mother and father energy coming together and producing a seed, which is given the nutrients it needs and raised in a thriving environment. Eventually, this fluid circulates back up the spinal column by the sacral pump, a regular rhythmic motion between the occiput and the sacrum. This is where it begins its return journey, like Christ rising again, increasing in vibration back up the spine, through the ventricles of the brain, and towards the medulla and brainstem until it reaches the vagus nerve. The oil's vibration is increased here before it enters the hypothalamus, which is the part of the brain that links the nervous system to the endocrine system, which is the chemical messenger system via the pituitary gland. The sacred oil sits dormant for 3.5 days, conserving the energy and increasing its vibration. It is this point of the process that we call the preservation stage. The synchronization between the moon's cycles and the ebb and flow of the secretion within the body highlights a profound cosmic harmony, as talked about in Revelation 11:11. And after 3.5 days, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. This interplay signifies a period of purification and elevation, akin to the transformative journey of Jesus during his time in the tomb before his resurrection. Spiritual awakening, depicted as a process of inner purification and activation, is intrinsically linked to the vibrancy and purity of our internal river of life. After 3.5 days, once the oil leaves the hypothalamus, triggered by the moon energy leaving your biorhythmic sun energy, the oil ascends. The gray matter of the upper brain vibrates stronger and faster when enough of the oil returns and anoints the pituitary and pineal glands, amplifying the alchemical powers of electromagnetism in the brain. As the Psalm 92:10 suggests, the anointing with fresh oil symbolizes a renewal of spiritual vitality and divine grace. I shall be anointed with fresh oil. When this substance, preserved and saved by an alkaline body, returns to the glands, the switch is flipped and the DMT thermostat increases. At this point, your senses are overtaken. As it is reabsorbed again into the veins, new blood is produced and dormant brain cells are reactivated or awakened by the higher potency of the chemically charged cerebrospinal fluid. Additionally, this flow of cerebrospinal fluid opens the thalamic gate, allowing the energy to move through the thalamus and access the reticular activating system. It is this system that is responsible for our levels of wakefulness and experiencing greater levels of awareness. At this point or return, you realign the natural chemistry of the body, and all of our millions of brain cells are activated. This arouses the neocortex, which vibrates into higher brainwave patterns. We are now operating at a higher level. This sacred secretion happens once a month, 12 times a year when the moon rests in the constellation sign that influenced the biorhythmic energy of your body at the time of birth. The sacred secretion gives full use of the mind by fully activating the pineal gland if it has been decalcified, which, in turn, activates the true spiritual self and reconnects the physical person with universal energy. Once the sacred secretion has returned, we remove ourselves from the brain cycle of observing and analyzing. We find unity beyond duality in reality. Furthermore, as we become more aware of subtle energies and sensitive to clairvoyant and psychic transmissions from higher dimensions of reality, our vibrant energy will also influence electromagnetic frequencies within our physical surroundings. We become more vibrant with life, energy, and attract positive and meaningful experiences. Due to this, we are more susceptible to messages, often in the form of synchronicities, such as repeated number patterns and very deep connections between events that happen to us. You will see synchronicities and understand them to be a sign that you are on the right path, resonating with the above from the below, and from the above you can change the below in accordance with will. Because of this increased intuition and psychic power, trust the messages that you receive and your initial thoughts and instincts, and flow with the path of least resistance, that which makes you feel closer to your innermost definition of good. It doesn't matter if others think you're crazy for acting in an unconventional way. Christ didn't care about what people thought when he delivered his gospel or good word. He imparted this sacred knowledge by living his life, dying and resurrecting as an analogy to this divine process that we all experience as humans and God's most sophisticated creation. Throughout history, stories have been a powerful way to pass on knowledge. During difficult times, like invasions or witch hunts, people relied on stories to preserve their wisdom. These stories contain deeper meanings that reflect the challenges and beliefs of the time. I believe Jesus was a real person, but in a way that transcends mundane reality. He was a true magician and alchemist of the mind. His teachings emphasized connecting with God and the world around us. His whole life, the miracles he did, death, and resurrection are one big synchronicity that hides layers upon layers of meanings on multiple levels. One interpretation of Jesus in the Bible is that he was a real person, not a mythical figure. His teachings emphasized a connection with God and the world around us, focusing on spiritual growth and understanding. When we look closely at the stories of Jesus in the Bible, we can see connections to astrology and the celestial bodies. For example, the circumstances of his birth align with certain zodiac signs, and his miracles seem to have astrological significance too. Take his first miracle, turning water into wine, ties to the astrological sign Aquarius, which is associated with the water bearer. His baptism at the age of 30, around the time the sun enters Aquarius, adds to this astrological connection. Even the way Jesus spread his teachings, like calling fishermen to be fishers of men, or performing miracles related to fish and water, can be seen as symbolic of the astrological sign Pisces, which is associated with fish. As for his death and resurrection, there are parallels with astrological events like the winter solstice, the darkness at the time of his death, and his resurrection after 2.5 days, symbolizing the rebirth of the sun, aligns with astrological patterns and the changing seasons. Even in the descriptions of heaven in the Bible, we find references to symbols that relate to the zodiac, like animals and scales. Understanding the origins of words can also shed light on these connections. For instance, the word death originally meant to pass, which can be interpreted in various ways, including passing a test or reaching a higher state of consciousness. As Jesus said to his followers, "When they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you." In short, the sacred secretion is the name given to the cerebrospinal fluid, which goes through a process of purification as it descends from the claustrum to the sacrum, traveling down the 33 vertebrae before it ascends as it vibrates higher until it reaches the pineal gland, which releases DMT, opening the mind to enlightenment experiences. I hope you found value in this video. Leave us a like and repost if you did, and consider subscribing or joining the More Than a Label Collective by becoming a member of our channel. Let's embark on the awakening journey together.